price. Well, we get back to market conversations now. The market's dipping again. It's about a 100-point cut as we speak, but it's just about 0.5%. Sunil Singhania is with us. Sunil's been waiting by patiently. Sunil, apologies, short delay there. We've just been, it's been a flurry of reactions since the morning trying to understand the implications of what this new 50% means. But your sense, on if we, let's say, manage to work through the oil tariff and the actual tariff is still 25%, is this a bit of a bottom in terms of peak negative news for the market? Does it get better from here?
Good morning, and thank you for having me. So first of all, a disclaimer, we always try and be optimistic on Indian economy and markets. And I think that's played out pretty well over the last 2-3 decades, despite all the ups and downs which we have seen. I think this is also one factor which has obviously come up. I don't think we can ignore this. It's a major thing. But at the same time, it's relative. So as long as, we as a country are relatively okay compared to the tariffs on other countries, I think we should be fine. Having said that, I think the events of the last 4-5 days have been definitely not so pleasant. It's been a negative surprise. And as is expected by all, we also believe that finally, it's a question of negotiations, diplomacy, a lot of politics rather than only economics built in. And hopefully things will settle now.
But Sunil, do you think there is some amount of complacency that's being built into the market? I mean, the reaction to really bad news also seems to be such an underreaction. Even today, we're just down close to about 0.3%. Like, everyone is confident that we will be able to strike a deal, which is good for us. So do you think there is some complacency and that might get shaken up?
I think we've all grown up, reading and listening to the fox and the sheep story. And I think this is, again, similar to that. The first instance of announcements always have a big reaction, and that is what we saw in January and February, and then also in April. But subsequent to that, I think every reaction and every comment has not been held on to. We have had multiple to and fro, some countries, tariffs being increased, some deferred, some decreased. It's been a complete sort of a chaotic kind of announcements. And therefore, I think maybe that is the reason why no one is taking them as seriously as the first few announcements, which were in January, February, and then April were. So that is one reason. The other thing is, I would agree that 80-85% of the concerns which we have seen over the last 1 year seems to be behind us, in terms of geopolitics. World is a little bit more peaceful than it was. India, Pakistan, and the Middle East scenario, I think except Russia, Ukraine, which continue to fight, most of the places are pretty, I would say, stable. The world is starting to grow a little bit, except this tariff issue. And even in India, you have liquidity in our favor. There's been a huge surge. Profits are slow, but they are recovering. So I would say that except this tariff, a lot of other things are sort of from a headwind starting to become a tailwind. And once this tariff issue is sorted, I think we can see a resurgence of optimism both in the economy as well as corporate profit base. And maybe, investors are looking at that. At least we are looking at that.
Okay, so perhaps close to the bottom. That's the sense one gets. So, Sunil, in this environment, because even if, like you're saying, that, gradually once this tariff issue settles, other issues seem to be already, settling down, leave us with an outlook on how one should be looking at a portfolio from at least, let's say, a 1-year basis, because things are still very confusing. You still don't know what happens with pharma. Should you be only looking at domestic-facing stories? I mean, EMS, etc. At some point, if electronics gets hit, so it's a lot is still up in the air. So, where should one place bets where there's a reasonable conviction in terms of growth and then hopefully stock price appreciation?
So, yeah, I would say that at this point of time, we should not do too many changes to the portfolio because it's still a scenario where everything is not settled down completely. We don't know the final end to this whole saga. I'm very sure the end is pretty near, at least in terms of clarity. So let clarity comes. We continue to like pharma because irrespective of what happens, I think Indian pharma is the most competitive in the world. And we are not exporting, medicines at 10x the price or 20x the price, which Trump is alluding to. We are more a support function in terms of our CDMO in generic pharma space. But I would say that rather than trying to do too many, changes in the portfolio at this point of time in an uncertain environment, it is better to be patient. I know that a lot of people got very excited on export-oriented companies when tariffs on other countries were levied, and we all know what happened when the same was done in India. So it is better to let things settle down. I would say that don't make too much changes in your portfolio over the next 15-20 days. Just bear with this whole uncertainty. I know it is a time when one has anguish and one has anxiety, but it also pays to do nothing in these kind of times.
Okay, advice well taken. Sunil, thank you so much for joining in today. Really great to get some perspective from you on a morning like this, very, very uncertain times. But Reema,